Hey everybody, we're just gonna let the stream get warmed up a little bit. I'll probably post a tweet, let everyone know. But I'm back. I haven't streamed in a long time. I hope you guys have had a good holiday break so far. Yeah, we'll just give it a minute to warm up a little bit, and then we'll get started. Oh, my hat hair, it's heinous. So I'm in the middle of the Seattle snow right now. It hasn't actually started to snow, but like everyone is talking incessantly about the snow, which I think is odd because maybe it's only snowing in the passes. I don't know. But again, it's that stereotype, right, of people on the West Coast when it snows panicking and thinking that it's the end of the world. Yeah, but so far we haven't seen any snow yet. We're just sort of chilling right now. Yeah, well, I'm back. Let's do some streaming. Let me know about the video quality and the audio quality. I actually forgot my good camera at home today. So the video is probably not great. Let me know about the audio. I think my mic is peaking an awful lot. So I might try to bring it down just a touch. Let me know if that's any better. Okay, I'm going to hop on Twitter super fast and just let people know that we're live. And then we will get started with today's world building stream. How have y'all been? Anything exciting to report? Okay, let me get that tweet going. Just a sec, everybody. Just letting the stream get warmed up a little bit before we dive right in. Thanks for your patience. I need like a pre-roll, you know? That's one of the things I don't really have. Copy, there we go. There. Okay, tweet is live. All right, thanks for your patience, everyone. So we're going to get started. So today, just to do a quick refresher in case anybody is unaware of what these streams are about, I am currently in the process of creating my next campaign, my next sort of large-scale multi-year campaign that I want to run. And that is a sort of dwarven-themed kingdom-building political intrigue sort of campaign. It's based on the sort of implied latter end of The Hobbit, where once Thorin comes back to Erebor, sort of about what it would be like to build up a kingdom from the ground up. This kingdom has fallen, and so it's all about political alliances and deal-making and dwarven clans and ancient conspiracies and things like that. So it's very Tolkien-esque. It's still set in Undune, which is the world that All Hell Yog, our podcast, is set in, but it's set at a very different time in a very different part of the world that doesn't really pertain to a lot of the events that happen in All Hell Yog. So today we're going to talk about some world building that pertains to mainly language, religion, customs, tradition, that kind of a thing. As you can see here, I made a sort of short list of different cultural ideas and folkways and mores, and we can talk about those individually today as we go in. We may not get a lot of people today. That's cool. It's a first stream back after a long time. So I might just sort of talk to myself for a bit, and if you guys want to pop in and make suggestions, that'd be awesome. But no pressure. I'm just going to get some world building work done. So I'm going to pick one of these to start with. How many different categories do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different categories. So I'm going to roll a d12. And if we get a d12, I'll re-roll it. I got a 12, of course. I'm going to roll an 11. So I got holidays. That's cool. So let's talk a little bit about our first holiday that we have listed here. We're going to talk about Last Lock. Last Lock is a holiday that I developed, I think for sort of a storytelling reason. I wrote a little write-up on it, actually, so I might just transcribe that. Last Lock is sort of a Dwarven New Year. You know what, actually, before we dive into these, hey, what's up, Brooke? Thanks for coming. We're talking about holidays, Brooke. You and I had a conversation about Last Lock as well, actually, Brooke. We were talking about the Dwarven holiday of Last Lock. Let me pull up the write-up I did on it. Yeah, hell yeah indeed. So last lock, I'll just type this out. It is celebrated. Can you guys see that okay? How does the picture look? How does the sound and everything like that? I'm a little worried that the mic is being too sensitive. The last day of the calendar year. Last lock is a Dwarven holiday. Great, thanks, Brooke. Appreciate it. Wherein a Dwarven clan changes the locks. Brooke just absolutely, yes, they definitely need alcohol. There are going to be a lot of those. Last lock is kind of like a sad, sort of, not sad, but sort of a sober holiday. It's not very uproarious. So we'll have to talk about something that are a little bit more fun. This is kind of a somber one. And sometimes traps on all their strongholds. What's up, Jose? Dude, that song got so stuck in my head. Jose is referencing, of course, Toss a Coin to Your Witcher, which I think should be called Valley of Plenty, but it's just called Toss a Coin to Your Witcher, which is a way longer title. I guess it's a cooler title, but dude, that song got stuck in my head for 1,000 years. It's still kind of stuck in my head a little bit, which I think is pretty common. Yeah, that's a good way to think of it, Brooke. It's like Dwarven spring cleaning. Exterior doors. I'm so glad you guys could come hang out. On last lock. I don't know if I would go so far as to say it's a dry holiday, but it is definitely less of a boisterous one, you know? It's not a long expected party. Or unexpected party, I should say. To reconvene in the stronghold to learn new changes. Any dwarf that does, it is sad drinking, not attend, is not taught the new passwords or given new keys and is thus essentially exiled from their clan. The incentives, this incentivizes dwarves never to stray too far from home, lest they be disowned by their friends and families. There's one more little paragraph here. Let me see what chat's up to. Yeah, it is kind of sad drinking, I think. We'll talk about drinking and dwarves in a little bit, but the kind of the conceit, right, is that they are they drink to remember. So drinking, rather than making them forget like it does with humans, when dwarves drink, it sort of triggers these ancestral memories for them, and personal memories too, which is something I got straight out of, I think, Tome of Foes was one thing that they came up with, this little sidebar about dwarves and alcohol, and I thought that was fascinating. Honestly, it was like one of the inspirations for the whole campaign. I thought that was so cool. I was like, man, dwarves are neat. Let's talk about dwarves. Hexer. Oh, yeah, that's right. They made those movies, right? There wasn't there a series of movies that they made in Germany or Switzerland or wherever that were like they were Witcher like adjacent, or were they actually canonically Witcher movies? I never knew. Hexer is cool. There's something about Witcher that I like. I like that it doesn't grammatically make the most sense. Like, it sounds like he should be performing witchcraft, but he doesn't. He kills people who perform witchcraft. He's a witcher, you know. I just think they're neat. Yeah, absolutely. They are neat. Dwarves are neat. Let's talk about dwarves. I've always really identified with them, which we can talk about a little later. So Modern Last Lock is somewhat more lenient. So this is a big thing that we can talk about when we talk about holidays, and is generally used as an excuse. I can't do a Marge impression. Marge is tough. You got to get that like really nasal quality, like right here, which like I don't know anyone who does it like a good Marge. You can get like a passable Marge, but she has such a unique, distinct voice. It's really hard to do. To gather the scattered clan together once a year. So yeah, it's sort of the like how come you never call anymore holiday. Keys are symbolically important to the holiday. and are an often factor into gifts, into symbolic gifts, and are are used, or decoration, we'll say. Decoration. Larger clans will often, like I said the word often, I guess, extravagantly redesign all their holds, exterior doors, and locks on last lock as a show of ostentatious wealth, which to me was always the like, look at my, you know, the like Christmas lights, ostentation and wealth. There we go. So that's last lock. You guys can read that, okay, right? Great. Check the. Oh, that's right. I think you told me that, Jose, that like you identify more as a dwarf, so you tend to play elves. Yeah, it does have kind of a Judeo-Christian, you know, Christmassy vibe. Yeah, and it's exactly what it is. Like, look, we redesigned the whole facade on the front of our stronghold. And, you know, most people, it's kind of like a small thing. They might just like, oh, we're just going to replace the locks. Or they might not even. And that's a big thing we can talk about, is that, like, the distinction between what you're supposed to celebrate, you know, and what you do celebrate. That, like, you know, if you think about how Christmas would have been celebrated 100 years ago, it's very different from how it is now. Dwarves, I think, in general, though, are pretty rigid. They don't really adapt to the modern times. That's something we can talk about, or that I mentioned up here in one of the other categories under customs and traditions. That, like, their like laws are basically a version of the Ten Commandments. This is like an ancient law that was passed down, you know, to stop people fucking camels in the desert. They still use that as their everyday law. They never updated it. They never modernized it. There are no, you know, references in those rules, for example, to, you know, new inventions like gunpowder or things like that. They don't accommodate that. Hey, what's up, Alan? Thanks for coming by. I don't think I know the size of the Fortress of Solitude. Like, does the Fortress of Solitude have like a massive key? Or is it like a really small key? I don't know Superman very well. Educate me, Jose. I want to know. But I like the idea of like a giant key. That's cool. Is it like a key to the city size key? Because I was imagining that. So that's the only holiday we have so far. We have Last Lock, which is the last holiday of the calendar year. So let's just brainstorm some like general ideas for holidays. I think, Jose, you had a thought up here. Spring cleaning, change the subject of the song. What was that thing you said? Oh, a second one where they break the casks anew. So some kind of a drinking cask remembrance holiday. So the way that, again, alcohol works, as I mentioned, is it helps them remember. So some kind of a Memorial Day type thing that's all about drinking and recalling. You know, maybe it's to commemorate some great event or something like that. Okay. Massive key. Huh. I feel like somebody did. You know, one of the Dwarven clans like made this point of like, here's this enormous key. And Supergirl, wait, 5 tons. Goat race is great. Yeah, Alan, I have I have an animal category up here, and goats is my first option. So some sort of goat race, goat tourney, goat competition, you know. I want to play with like, yeah, I like that key. Like, let me just add additional notes. The bigger the key, the holier it is. What's up, okay, so obviously I know how to say pseudonym. Pseudonymous, is that how you would pronounce it? Pseudonymous nerd? Pseudonymous? That's very cool. A character in one of my books is named Pseudonym. But pseudonymous, I feel like is difficult to say. It's awesome, I love it, but I don't know how to say it out loud. I feel like an idiot. Yeah, goat quality passion. That's exactly what I was imagining with like goat competition. It's like best in show, you know. Large keys are considered better and more holy, more sacred than small ones. Toss the goat. I dig that. Yeah, clan fairs. That's an interesting idea. So dwarves are super about their clans, right? Does each clan have like a particular day that they celebrate that's like, this is holy to this individual clan? You know, I could see that. I like that. Pseudonymous. Okay, pseudonymous. Interesting. Pseudonymous. That's very cool. Welcome, man. Welcome, friend, I should say. So yeah, like a fair, dedicated, like, I'm trying to decide, like, 'cause I love that idea that, like, you know, October the 11th is holy to, it's like celebrated by this clan. It's like each clan has their own, and sort of July 4th, right? Goat tossing. So I think they have a weird relationship with goats. Let's talk about goats. That sounds bad. It's not a weird relationship with goats. I think goats are inherently sort of surface creatures, right? They don't really have underground goats. And dwarves, one of their sort of virtue vice propositions is that they virtuize going underground and living underground and avoiding the sun and avoiding, you know, the elements and things like that. Underground is always better than above ground. So I think goats, while they're important and very practical to dwarves, because you obviously have to move around above ground, and especially because goats provide a lot of things for them. They would provide milk, they would provide fur, they would provide meat and horns and things like that. So goats are, I think, a vital part of dwarven ecology. You know, they live in the mountains. They're great for mounting and for riding around. But I think they would be seen as being low. I mean, kind of like how we see certain animals today, like pigs or whatever, kind of seen as a low status animal, despite how important they are. So I feel like the goat competitions and the goat festivals and stuff would be very important to certain sort of highland clans, like some of the clans that are a little bit more rustic and a little bit more surface level, right? Rather than being sort of the deep ancient clans. But I think that's great. I think that then you get some interesting cultural stuff there where the goat festivals aren't even recognized by some of the truer, purer underground clans, you know. Goat tossing, best in show goat competitions. Look at all these people. Thanks for coming out, everybody. Goat tossing, celebrated mainly by mountainous, like younger clans or more rustic clans. Fishing holiday. Eyeless cave leviathans. Yeah, I dig that. There is a like a fish rodeo. There is an underground sea. So the kingdom is called Coom, and it's like a, you know, sort of sequestered off in one corner of one of our continents, protected by mountains, and it was sort of isolated for most of its history until it was, well, relatively recently opened up to outsiders and humans and things. But yeah, there is a large underground sea in Coom, so I could definitely see there being some sort of a fishing-related festival there. I don't know that they would ride the fish. Fish are the goats of caves. Wow, I'm so glad that you're here. I like Tastiest Goat Cookout, or Cook-Off. I could also see there being, like, you know, they make a thing where you have to make an entire meal based off this goat. So you make cheese and goat milk and goat meat, and it's like, here's my meal, and it is entirely made out of goats. Make one meal from one goat. Brooke, that's a great question you have there. Brooke asked recently, I wonder what plucky adventurers found it. Join our Dungeon Crawl campaign on Patreon. Great. I think they use goats as mounts. At least the surface level ones do. I don't know if they have mounts down below, underground. You know, because I don't know what there's a lot. Maybe like lizards, but that feels undwarven to me. That feels very drow. You know, they wouldn't be that reptilian. I don't know if they have underground mounts. They definitely have goats for, you know, above ground expeditions and stuff like that. But again, I think they're seen as being low. You know, you shouldn't have to go above ground. You should be able to just get anywhere underground. Yeah, they use humans as mounts. I have that DVD. I think they eat, toss, and ride goats. Yeah, I think so. I think that makes sense. Dude, mountain goats are freaky. I saw some mountain goats the other day at the zoo. And, like, they're cool. I'm frightened of mountain goats. Apparently they're very ornery, which I think is neat. I like that. Yeah, ooh, carts. Yeah, they have a lot of carts for sure. What about like a cart race? Mine cart race. That's like a little Donkey Kong, but I think the idea of it is cool. They do have like an ancient underground like subway system that connects a lot of different points in Coom that are basically mine carts, but like fancier and stone and magical. The Mountain Goats are a great band. Yeah. Speaking of Dungeons and Dragons, Alan loves the Mountain Goats. You could talk at length about them. About John Darnell, right? Yeah, exactly. I knew you would pipe up about that. Let's talk about this drinking holiday. So, I mean, obviously they drink a lot. They're dwarves, right? And we made the point that drinking lets them remember certain events. It's sort of a nostalgia, to make a Watchmen reference, where they can drink this. They can drink and get drunk, and rather than just being sort of knocked off their asses, which they are, you still have all the other effects of being drunk, but a drunk dwarf will sort of flash back and vividly recall things that have happened to them in their past. So I'm trying to think, like, how would they celebrate that, in sort of a group way, rather than just like, let's all go down to the tavern and get drunk. Special ale, definitely. I want there to be a special ale. One of the clans specifically brews ale. So I think I written this down somewhere. I have like 3 different clans that brew ale as their like primary focus. Like everybody brews ale in the way that like all the dwarven clans smith things and carve stone. But there's one that's sort of like a holy order, because one of the dwarven gods, Kavish, is the goddess of drink, and death and memory and stuff like that. There's one clan that specifically brews like bespoke. Like if you drink, it's like aged in certain barrels. And they have these like archives. Like if you drink from this vintage of booze or whatever, then you will remember that particular year. And so it almost has this like catalog of like, I could go and I could drink from 1641 and remember what I was doing at 1641 or whatever. I haven't hammered that one out completely, but something like that. Let's see, what do we have in the chat here? They bring out the good stuff. Oh yeah, for sure. All the good stuff. Are they allowed to write their own booze revelations down? Or is it like a non-phone zone where they're all together with the express purpose of remembering? They might run out of stuff to drink about. Interesting. Oh, that's cool, Jose. I like that. Like a storytelling competition. In general, Alan, that's a good point. They don't really write things down, dwarves. They can now. For a lot of their history, they didn't have a traditionally written alphabet. They had like Mayan-style logographs, which are like little squares with geometric shapes in them, and which was used to carve in stone. So they wouldn't have just had like, I have a paper. Eventually, one of the dwarven queens brought in the idea of trade and human contact. And she invented an alphabet for them, which is like the classic sort of Duthek runic alphabet that you usually see. But no, I like the idea that it's about togetherness. One of the things that Kavish, the dwarven god of booze, is all about is communion and community. I like it having kind of like an Irish wake sort of feel. I love the story competition. They all get drunk and remember something a great ancestor did. So maybe the point is to like, yeah, because like, can you shape what you remember, or do you just drink and then you like dwell on whatever is already in your mind? Like if you committed some great crime and there was some great tragedy and then you got drunk, would you always go back to the same thing? Or could you say, like, I want to remember this moment? I don't really know how it works. Karaoke, yeah, that's cool. And try to tell the best tale. Skaldic competition. I don't know how far they can remember. I like the idea that there is a clan that deals with like long memory stuff with the booze, that they have like the specialty stuff, so I don't think it should be too far back. Ostensibly, maybe it's just, into their own history. But if you drink the, like, super magic ale, right, the special ale that you maybe order from this particular place, then you can remember way back in the day. It would give that clan, like, a huge monopoly on that holiday, almost like a Hallmark thing with Valentine's Day, which is kind of cool. Brewer clan is super important on this holiday. Has a Hallmark style monopoly. Yeah, I could see it being like, how far back can they remember? Like, in their own family, maybe? Remember all the way back? Depending on the kind of booze they drink? So maybe the competition is about how far they can remember the story, and the clan judges the winner. That's cool. Is it like everyone drinks and remembers at the same time, or are there rememberers and receivers? Like, is it a free for all or a forum? I think everyone drinks and remembers at the same time. I don't know that they share the same memories. I think each individual person drinks, and then they remember what is in their past or their family's past. So if you have two different clans, but I guess if you're all with your clan, wouldn't you all basically remember the same things? I mean, it could be in your direct bloodline, but dwarves actually aren't really so concerned with bloodline as they are with, like, sort of found family stuff, right? Like, you obviously want to have children and raise children and have them be your children, but, like, they care more about, like the crown, for example, is passed through succession, not necessarily through, like, primogeniture. So, like, a dwarf it's more about, like, a master-apprentice relationship than it is, like, a father-son relationship. I like the idea that everybody does it together. I don't know if they would all remember the same thing. I think it's like you drink and then you remember, what you choose to remember, what your mind is, like, fascinated with, or what you're stuck on. And then you tell a story about it. And so it's about their different stories. They don't all tell the same one, right? They all tell different tales. And it's about who has the best retelling and who can recall the best thing. Yeah, everyone remembers personally. I think that's better. You hear the stories and get new stories, knowing full well they have 1 week. Yeah, of course. And they're, like, terrible. So maybe there's 2 holidays. Maybe it's, like, followed by, like, Hangover Day. Hangover Day, where they all do nothing and stay home. That, like, the day after that holiday is sort of considered to be like a day off, right? You don't need to go anywhere. It's almost like a Shober Shabbos. Like, you're not supposed to leave or go anywhere. You're supposed to, like, never turn on any lights and, like, stay home because you're so hungover. I think that, like, I think that dwarves don't get hungover from, like, regular booze. They would obviously consider, like, human alcohol to be really weak, and I think they don't even get drunk from that, right? Well, I don't know. I think it would just take a lot. They have good constitution anyway, but I feel like dwarven ale is, like, specifically crafted to take dwarves under, so it would be way too potent for humans. I mean, it might even just be out and out poisonous to humans in some cases. Maybe, like, the older it is, like, the more fermented. Like, if a human drinks some of the memory ale from, like, 200, 300 years ago, it could just out and out kill them because it's just poisonous like water. Hangover week. Yeah, that's funny. I like that. It's got to have, like, I don't want to call it, like, Remembrance Day or something like that. I like the story thing. I think that's cool. Here comes Alan. It's a holiday for settling scores and debts. I like that. I've not seen The Flash. 1,000 proof. Yeah, that's cool. They are all about grudges. Are you talking about, like, financial debts, or are you talking about like, personal grudges and debts? Because I kind of like the personal angle. Another one of the dwarven virtue vice things is they are sort of against. They're pro-wealth. They're pro, like, having, being rich and opulence and that kind of a thing. But they're anti-trade. They're anti-commerce. And they don't really believe in selling things, like they want to make something and then they just want to give them away. So it's like they might take some of their clan resources, they might make a beautiful item, a beautiful harp or something like that, and then they want to exchange it with something that somebody else has. So rather than selling it, rather than like, okay, I'm going to give this to you and then you'll pay me back in coin, it's a lot of bartering, but they're usually like culturally wrapped up as gifts. Like, I give this to you. I'm such a great craftsman, I could just hand this over, I can make another one. I'm giving this to you. And then in return, if you receive that harp, you say, well, wow, I made this spear. It's the greatest spear I have. I can make more. Here, this goes to you. It's, trade, but it's like disguised as gifts. But they obviously need to have some form of commerce and coin. But coin, I think, is like something that is just a human invention. Like, dwarves don't use it. Dwarves don't have currency of their own. They might like hammer precious metals into coins to give to humans when they trade. But in amongst dwarves, they really don't have commerce. That'll be an ale recipe, like a sourdough starter that you feed and share while also baking some of it. That's cool. Sourdough bread, sourdough starter. Maybe I don't actually know what you're talking about. You write it down. It seems cool. Are you talking about like actually baking it into bread? Because that's cool. Sourdough bread baked in conjunction with brewing. Let me know, because I think that's a cool idea. Look at this axe. You can fit so much fire in it. It's got the most fire. Adra is Brooke's character in our dungeon crawl. She's playing a dwarf Eldritch Knight named Adra Emberax. So that is what she's referencing. I love the settling debts. So, like, I like the idea of a settling debts day. But again, it's that what they say they value versus what they can actually value, right? So they definitely have to have commerce. They just don't like it. They see it as being, again, low or being base. It's not like a higher aspiration for a dwarf. Ideally, a rich dwarf has gotten all of their wealth from out of the earth, have mined it themselves. That's honorable. Whereas, like, trading, it's like you didn't work for that. You just handed things over. That's considered base. I like settling debts, link accounts. They're like all about grudges and vendettas and scores. So a day when you repay your enemies is neat. Yeah, huh. Can we have a master apprentice day, Sadie Hawkins style, where the apprentices have like hardships received? Oh, you're talking about like a hazing, Jose? That's cool. Apprentice day. Yeah, I like the will they switch it? Yeah, that's cool. Master apprentice, like almost like take your apprentice to work day or whatever. Master apprentice swap day. A day when the like when I left you, I was but the learner. When the master becomes the apprentice. A day of pranks and jokes. Dwarven April Fool's Day, essentially. Dwarven April Fool's Day. But I can see there also being like an element of that's also the day when you honor your master. So it's like you do this and it's haha, it's a joke, and like we do all these things and it's considered okay. But then at the end, usually there's a gift given or there's some kind of a thing. Like it's sort of all in good fun. And then there's, of course, like the fable or story about dwarf master who took it too personally, right? Who, like, that's like the Ebenezer Scrooge, right? The character that, like, you're not supposed to be, who lashed out and was considered a bad master. I mean, honestly, that might even be a good religious angle. Umbor and Athad. So Umbor is the dwarven smith god, and he's the forefather god, and then his son Athad is the merchant god. And the idea is that Umbor was a bad father and tried to push his son too hard. and drove him away, and eventually drove him into like the evils of commerce, right? That like, 'cause dwarves wouldn't think of that as being honorable. I want to go back to this settling debts day. And they switch, and the apprentice has one chance to slap as hard as he can his master, take pride in which the apprentice. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's all about, oh man, he humiliated me, all that kind of stuff. That's great. Even if it was at his expense, that's cool. Repay your enemies is neat. So it's almost like a day of suspicion, right? It's like a day when you stay inside and don't trust anyone. It's like that's the thing, like everyone's opportunity to re-zero this moral and social scales. Like if there's a wronging that's outstanding for more than 1 year, it becomes a feud. Yeah, I like that. Hey, what's up, Sildari? It could also be a day of like reconciliation too, right? Reconciliation. Either financial, because I can see it being material, right? Like let's say I made you a spear, and it was a great spear, and you took it, but then you never made me anything back, you know, and it just kind of hung in between us for a long time. And so then this might be the day where like, oh crap, I owe this guy this thing, so I will go and I'll give it to him. But I like it having the inverse effect that like is also a day used to settle feuds, right? Like that's cool. Whether financial, material, personal, or adversarial. That's cool. I like that. It's all about their memory, right? Those days when it's a safely approach for parlay. Yeah. See, I don't know if it's. Yeah, I like the suspicion of that though. That like this might be a day when my enemies are coming to collect what is owed, quote unquote. That's nice. It feels like it plays into their long memories, you know, and their like unwillingness to let things go. This is like the day when you're allowed to let things go, and if they don't fix it by that time, then it's like, well, you didn't care, you know, and now you and I are at war. That's interesting. I love that. Nice job, Alan. That's very cool. I feel like we have a couple good ones. Let's talk about the clan fair a little bit. It's kind of like a July 4th, right? It's like this is a day to celebrate the greatness of your individual family or clan. A 4th of July-esque. A 4th of July-esque day when you celebrate the specific accomplishments of your individual family or clan. I could see the day varies depending on which clan fair is going to be an important day. It's going to be some important day for a clan for whatever reason. Yeah, that like one clan might pick like this is the day we were founded, or one clan might pick this is the day when, you know, our most famous Thane was crowned, or this is the day when we discovered this, you know, artifact, or we finished completion on this big project. Like it would depend on what they considered to be their pinnacle, and they could move the clan day to a different day when they did something big. So like, let's say your clan hollowed out a whole mountain and turned it into a giant horn that you could blow, for example. Maybe before you did that, your clan their day was when that clan was founded. But then once you made this great wonder, then you changed your clan day to that day. You know, it's like it bounces around to commemorate whatever you think your greatest accomplishment is. There's not like a finite number of clans in the sense that like there can only ever be this many. There's approximately like 42 because there's 7 upper clans. Yeah, the day fire was put into your axe. There you go. There's the 7 like elder clans, and then each one of those elder clans ostensibly has like 5 under clans. So there's 6 elder clans that have under clans, and then all of those are ruled by one of the elder clans, the True Silvers, the ruling clan. And those are the like inner clans, the ones inside Coombe. There are other clans across the world, but ostensibly they're supposed to be 42, but there have been periods where clans dissolved or clans were formed or whatever. And so it kind of always fluctuates as to how many there actually are. But it's in the sort of 40s neighborhood. Day varies depending on what that clan views as their primary accomplishment. It might be the day they won a battle, or a day they finished a great work, or crowned their most famous thane, etc. Japanese spring school fair with the clan set an outer booth where others know what the clan did for others to... Oh, that's cool. Like a welcome in kind of a thing. Ooh, I like that, Jose. What if that's done the day before last lock? Or like, you know, like an open house kind of a thing. Others invited inside Dwarven Stronghold to show off their wares. I mean, that could be clan day too, but I feel like I like the idea that you would like invite people in right before you change all the locks, right, and all the security. You know, it's like this is the day when it doesn't matter anymore. That's interesting. I like that. For clan day or clan fair, I think like they would have like sort of themed celebration, right? So if your clan was all about fire and axes, for example, hint, hint, wink, wink, fire and axes, you might have an axe throwing competition. Throwing competition, etc. You know, you try to like highlight the achievements of your clan. Is it where clans serve each other, or where they flex on each other? Or is it a private affair within a clan? Does that vary clan? I think it definitely vary. That's cool. I think clans serve each other and flex on each other, right? I think it's like, you're talking about the open house? Or are you talking about clan day? Let me get back to the goat pie example. The clan set an outer booth where others know what the clan did for others to experience. They all wait for the epic. Oh, that's cool. So, yeah, great. So, they convene. So then it wouldn't actually have to be right in front of last log. They convene at the volcano. So, long story short, there is a large volcano in the center of Coombe. That was raised in sort of like the antediluvian Dwarven history. It like burst up out of the ground. There's some myth about the Dwarven clans all going to war over a particularly beautiful gem, and Ignon, the Dwarven goddess of earth, like raising this volcano to give them something else to deal with. But ever since then, there was like that led to a war with these fire giants that came out. It was this whole big thing. The point being that in the center of Coombe, there's now this volcano that's sort of seen as being neutral ground, that no one owns it, and it's got all these like elaborate forges built into it that the fire giants used, and it's seen as, you know, anyone is free to come and use those forges, you know, and they're some of the hottest in the kingdom, and it's meant to be like, this is a symbol of Dwarven cooperation. Even though the dwarves like sort of secretly scheme and don't like each other. So I think that this like open house, right, is when they all go to the volcano. And so you make this like, you know, pilgrimage there with all of your goods, and you set up and you say, look at the great things that we make and do, and then you can exchange, and it's about serving, yeah, as you said, it's like serving each other. For a grand, that's almost like a con, right? Or a grand convention. Where free sort of samples of the Dwarven goods are passed out, you know, and again, it's sort of there's a little bit of flexing on each other. There's some flexing. They want to show off how powerful and wealthy they are. But there's plenty of good fellowship, etc. You know, there's meant to be like a good sense of we're dwarves, and people get excited about it. It's like an important holiday. I like it being about a clan taking a turn to serve other clans. There's a Germanic Norse wedding custom where the groom throws an axe to cut the bride's hair braids. That's cool. I love that. That's super Norse. I'm into it. Yeah, ooh. Let's talk about Dwarven Weddings, guys. So I'm going to roll up a little bit to customs and traditions. So I just had a thought. So the way that weddings work in Dwarven society, well, marriages, I guess, they're all about matchmakers. They're all about marrying for like politics, yes, but like compatibility in a non-sexual or romantic way. They view a marriage as like finding a collaborator, like another artist that you're going to work with, and whose skills like line up. So they're less romantic about it, and they're much more strategic in terms of like, well, hey, I'm a great, silversmith, and you're a great stone carver. So if we team up, the things we could make could incorporate both great stonework and great silversmithing, right? It's like that. They can grow to love each other over time, but they're less concerned about romantic love in the way that a human or definitely an elf would be. So I think that they're very rigid about that kind of thing, but I love the idea. So they're also concerned about whose clan you now belong to, which is huge, right? So if you are a member of an elder clan, for example, if you're a member of we'll say the True Silvers, who were kind of like the kingly clan, the royal clan, and you want to marry someone from an underclan, let's say you want to marry someone from the Hornwinder clan, who's an underclan of the True Silvers, the royal clan. If you marry into the Hornwinder clan, probably the Hornwinder is going to take your name, and then they're going to become a True Silver because it's better and more prestigious for them. They want to marry into a larger, wealthier clan. So there might be, coming back to what you were saying, Jose, if you want to use that tradition, there might be a way to symbolically, like, if you say that, like, there's a particular sort of braid or beard plate, that each clan uses. This is like the traditional way to do your beard or do your hair. There might be a way to say like, okay, we're going to cut that off and you are no longer part of that clan. You've now moved to this other clan. And maybe it's gotten more and more ostentatious over time, and now it's about like throwing the axe or whatever. You wouldn't shave the whole beard or all of your hair, right? But like, let's say you have long dwarven hair and you braid like the ends of it in the particular knot or whatever that's endemic to your clan. So by cutting it off, you're saying, I'm severing my ties to this clan. Ceremonially cut the braid, whether in hair or beard. Oh yeah, of course not. But you know what I'm saying. Like, they have a little bit of it, just like a trim. It's a shave. It's a new beginning. To show that they're leaving one clan. And then there's like a ceremonial braiding to show the joining of a new clan. And honestly, like, maybe the cutting off is more traditional. The more progressive, modern way is just simply unbraid it. Right, it's like in the old days, like you cut it, like you're no longer a part of that clan, and the tie to that clan is severed, and it was very extreme. And so some places still do that because they're more traditionalist, but now a lot of the time it's just like you'll just rebraid, right? And that's the important thing. But the hair being a big deal in the wedding. That's great. Thanks, Jose. I think for holidays, we're getting pretty good. Like that for a week? That's funny. I say the shorter the cut, the better luck the clans think the couple will have. Oh, that's great, Jose. Yeah. Let me make sure I make a note of axe throwing. Axe throwing is the showiest way to do it. To do this. The shorter, the better. The closer the cut, the better, as it displays your axe throwing skills. I'll say the better luck the couple is said to have. I think you're joking, Alan, but I actually don't hate the idea that they braid their hair / beard together in some way. Right? That's actually kind of neat. Obviously, it's hilarious that they're stuck together, but then, like, they have to sit by each other, they have to dance together, and, like, I don't know, I think that's kind of nice. It's kind of cute. That's great. I think in terms of, like, legit holidays, I think we have enough. There is also Proving Day, which is one more I want to add. Minecart Race, I'm not sure where that'll go, but we'll find a place for it. Proving Day it doesn't have one day. It doesn't have one set day. Every Dwarven apprentice has one. So the way this works, we've talked about this a little bit, is the idea that, like, a Dwarven apprentice will be apprenticed generally to their father. The Dwarven custom basically centers around, like, the Dwarven, like, familial structure. The idea is that the mother provides the material and is, like, incubates the child and gives birth to the child, but then it's the father's job to raise the child or shape the child, right? Like to craft a person out of them. If the mother is the earth and the raw material, then the father is the craftsman who takes the raw material and shapes it into something. So generally it falls to the father. And the sort of first chunk of a dwarf's life cycle, they serve as an apprentice in their father's trade, and they work at whatever their father did, whether if their father was a smith, then they're a smith. If their father was a merchant, then they're a merchant. But at a certain point, they make an item. They basically make sort of a proof of concept, almost like a thesis or something like that. Like they create something to say, these are my skills. Look at what I can do. And then they put it on display, and other masters come and view this thing, and they make different offers. Hey, I will teach you to do this. I am a tinsmith, and I can make these things. You want to come work for me? They make offers to the child, the apprentice. And generally the apprentice will make the father will make, like, the last or the first offer to say, like, you can always stay with me if they want. And often that's traditional. But let's say, you were raised by a blacksmith, but you really want to be a warrior. So you might craft, a weapon, or you might craft something that, like, displays your skill. And during your proving, you might show your prowess with, like, look, I'm going to give you a demonstration to show how great of a warrior I am, to convince other warriors to come and take you on as an apprentice. So Proving Day, then, is something that, like, each Dwarven apprentice would have one, almost like a first communion or something like that, where it brings in other masters. Other masters come to watch and inspect the apprentices' gifts, apprentices' like masterwork. I think that's like calling it proving. If they like it, they might make an offer. 1 second. Okay. That's odd. Some guy just waved at me, like knocked at the door and waved for no reason. Might make an offer to be their master. Traditionally, fathers make the first offer. And there's a lot of, like, potential for drama there, right? Like, let's say that you are a silversmith. I keep using this example. Let's say you're a silversmith, and you raise your child to be a silversmith, and then they have their proving, and others masters come, and another silversmith makes them an offer, and you accept that, right? Like, what does that say about your father? Is it to get away from them? Is there something about that other silversmith? Like, I feel like there's a lot of room for Thronesian, family intrigue that could go in there. Okay, sorry, I jumped away from the Dwarven wedding dances reflect the braid thing. That's so good. All their dances are... Oh, they totally have... Dwarven dancing is stuffy, like line dancing. It's like very Pride and Prejudice. Like there's you stand in the place you're supposed to stand, and you like move around each other, and it's meant to create like an image, almost like marching bands or something like that. It's not about what you experience, it's about what other people experience looking at it, right? You made it for them. It's not about expression, it's not about like free form dancing. It's about working for the greater whole. That's so good, Brooke. Nice job. It's about the shapes all the dancers make together is rigidly choreographed, is beautiful to watch, dutiful to dance. Right? You might not have a good time. You might just do it to make it look cool. I don't want to learn how to do it. I want to exactly right, Jose. I want to learn magic. Audra did that exactly. And preliminary standardized tests, kind of DBZ tournament strength tests. The masters can see the kids chart. Yeah, I think that makes sense. For sure. There'd be all kinds of different things with the proving. And I think a lot of it is based on like, this is what I've chosen to do for my proving, right? And so you can kind of code into that how you want to, like what kind of career you want, or like what kind of master you're looking to, attract. Okay, so for holidays, it's over 9,000. I think we're good for holidays. We have Settling Debts Day, Master Apprentice Swap Day, Clan Fair, Drinking Cask Remembrance Day, Goat Racing, which I think is regionalized, Minecart Racing, which could be regionalized too, Proving Day, Open House, and Last Lock. I don't want to get too many more because I think more than like 10 holidays gets to be a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's only 7, 8. So if we have any more ideas for holidays, please go ahead and throw them out there. I'm definitely not opposed to adding a couple more, but I want to maybe move away and put a little time into something else. So here are the rest of our categories. We have language, which I have a pretty good understanding of. We can definitely talk about. Religion, I have a pretty good understanding of too, but I'm always willing to dive in more. Customs and traditions is kind of open-ended, but we could definitely talk about how they think about law, and like wedding is a great example of a thing that like how do they feel about adoption? How do they feel about gay marriage? Things like that. Customs and traditions. Family structure, we can talk about a little bit, which I have some ideas about already. Food and drink, I have very little, so food and drink might be a good place to talk. Sports and games, I'm also really light on, so that might be a good one. Fashion is good. Animals is interesting. Architecture and art is like a really big category, but we could definitely delve into it. There's a lot there. And then music, which I have some very vague thoughts on. Senior skip day. Oh, interesting. Minecart race is like yeah, it's like a thing young kids do, right? Where they like run down there and they hijack the minecarts and they run around. I kind of like that. Yeah, it's a prank. It's a prank. And it's like a blight. It's a blight. Some sports. Yeah, I'm totally into that. Let me quick do this. Parents and elders try to stop young kids, young dwarves, from racing minecarts. Many dwarves think fondly of their kart racing days. Racing days. So kids will be kids. I love that, Jose. I love that it's like senior skip day and it's like a thing that like these kids are out there. It's the kind of thing they do like a 2020 investigative report on, right? Like, is your kid kart racing? Done at night or something, when dwarves are asleep. Well, we can talk about dwarven. I mean, that's a great thing to talk about. Sleep. Under customs and traditions. Sleep. 48-hour day. Something like that, if they're underground. When dwarves aren't working the mines. Dangerous. Wild. Fun. A thing you do before your proving day, right? That's like dwarven skinny dipping, essentially. Skinny dipping. Some stuff. Micro race, I think, should be a secret day. I love that. I want to talk sports is good. Yeah, that's great. I love that. Old dwarf tries, like remembers Wild Kart Days. Wild Kart Racing Days. Alan, I liked your comment about architecture for dwarves is the same in everything. 36 hours. Well, just the idea, right, that like I remember reading somewhere the study that, you know, if you isolate people from daylight, they don't sleep in a 24-hour schedule. They sleep in a 48-hour schedule because like they're not aware of when the sun is moving. So if you had a civilization that was based on being underground, you wouldn't have a 24-hour day. You wouldn't be beholden to do that. Maybe some of the dwarven clans that have moved up to the surface have gone back to the 24-hour day. You know, something like that could be interesting to play with. You know, when do they sleep? What is a dwarven night? Did you have that? Like, did they all sleep at the same time? Because it seems weird and like bad for defense if you live underground. While drinking or during celebration day or Remembrance Day, not celebration day. Remembrance Day. Alan, I liked your comment about architecture because I think that's definitely true. And I don't want to like avoid some of that stuff because I think it's like, you know, there's useful shorthand in there. And that's one of the reasons I like dwarves. But I would be interested in talking about what we could do that's unique, you know, for dwarven architecture. Brooke was talking about sports. Let's talk sports. We gotta have some sports here. I could see them being into a lacrosse type game or rugby. Rugby seems cool. Sports, rugby-esque sport. Like all about pushing. All about pushing and enduring. It's almost like a shield wall competition almost, right? Like where all the dwarves like link arms like rugby style and like grrr, you know, it's like less about like athleticism and more about endurance, you know, and can you just plant your feet and refuse to be moved. Like I have like dwarven like sumo wrestling, right? Like that's got to be a thing. Highlander games is great, yeah, for 48 hours. I mean, like players only double things, that's easy. 1-5 ratio that messes with them. Oh, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, that's interesting. It just seems like you're doing it to like troll players. Yeah, okay. I don't mind that. It could be 36 hours. Track and field type events. Yeah, so boulder tossing, I think. Shot put. Yeah, I mean, I think here's what's interesting about it too. Like, shield versus spear teams, one has to endure, the other has to puncture. Yeah, that's cool. I like that. Here's the thing with like throwing boulders. I definitely think it makes sense. They're dwarves. It's kind of a giant thing, but it's also like you got to think about sports in terms of like what do they value? You know, like is just like athleticism important to dwarves? I mean, I think they care about strength, you know, but I don't know if they care about like in what aspects of strength. Is like throwing things important? They don't care about accuracy, probably. They care about distance. So I feel like, yeah, they might have shot put, but it's about how far can you get it versus, like, I guess that's how real shot put is. Is shot put about target? Like, do you try to hit, like, a ring? Is it like bocce? Or is it just, like, how far you can throw it? Yeah, architecture is always big, heavy, right-angled stone, quasi-Soviet. Yeah, I agree. It's hard to get away from that, you know? It's like saying, like, elves are always about trees. Yeah, well, that's what makes them elves. I like right angles. I like geometry being a thing with them. You know, they're not very organic. They're all very like hard. It's distance. Yeah, okay. So I think shot put makes sense. They're just trying to get it as far as physically possible. Let's talk about games for a second. So I had the idea of like. So I don't know if you guys have ever played Hnefatafl or just Toffel. It's a like Viking Age board game like this is a board game, I guess. That's really interesting. What's cool about it is you have to like the premise. It's basically like chess, and it would look like chess, you know, from like a cursory glance. But Toffel works where you have a king piece that's in the center. There's only one, and it's asymmetrical. So the white player has to try to defend the king and allow the king to get to one of the four corners of the board, whereas the black player has more pieces and is trying to capture the king. And so it's totally asymmetrical, and the goals of the two different teams are completely different, and that's what makes it so fascinating. There's actually like a lot of interesting strategy that is kind of absent from chess because they're totally symmetrical. And what's cool about TOEFL is that it is much easier to win as the black team. Not only do you have more pieces, but your goal is a lot simpler. And what I like about that is it reflects the Viking value that like sort of attack, right? They're pro offense, and you can kind of see that in their board game. It's a great game, by the way. I really like it. I did some research for it for the movie that I wrote, and there's actually a scene in the movie where the characters play TOEFL. I get to talk about it a little bit, and TOEFL's great. Yeah, it looks like Jose's familiar with it. Yeah. Hanefa TOEFL, it's great. So the idea is, with their version of it, I don't know if you guys have ever played Castle Panic, but Castle Panic is a really fun, it's like obviously a modern board game. It's cooperative, and you basically set up a castle, and it's got walls and things. And you, as the whole team, have cards, and you draw cards, and cards have different things on them, different units you can deploy. And it sends these like random waves of monsters against the castle. And it's about trying to endure as many waves as you can, right? And so I think the dwarves have something similar, but it's not cooperative. I think it's tower defense, right? It's like the one player, white or whatever, gets a chance to set up their fortress in whatever way they want, right? And then the other player, and then once they set it up, it's set up. And it sits in the way that it sits, and the turrets do what they do and whatever. And then the black player comes in, and then they get a certain number of pieces, and they get to throw themselves against it. And so it's not about the two players playing against each other. It's about one player setting up the perfect kill box or whatever, and then the other player funneling their troops in. It's like Orcs Must Die or something like that, right? Like as a board game. And so it's totally a thinking tactical strategy game, but there's no interaction. There's no face-to-face. It's like one player will set it up, another player will come in, and those two players maybe even never interact. So that's kind of what I mean. Where like we got to think about like sports that reflect their cultural values. Like what do they care about? What would they consider like good athleticism or good strategy or good tactics? Dwarves are all about defense and endurance and like letting the enemy crash against your walls rather than going out and fighting them. Stratego is a good example of that. Yeah, that's not a bad one. It is, again, symmetrical in a way. I don't think that would work, but it's perfect in that like you set it up and you never mess with it again, right? Or like Guess Who or something like that. Like it's not like you get to move the pieces around in Stratego. You just lay them out and then wait. That's a great example. Taking a beating is huge for them. Yes, exactly, right? It's like, can you endure? How much pain can you take? And if you're still standing, that's really important to them. Oh yeah, for sure. Plants vs. Zombies is a great example. One adult dwarf is chased and scourged by 10 dwarf children. That sounds like a horrible gladiatorial game. I've never tried Tak. Tak? I don't know how it was pronounced. That's the one from King Killer, right? But it's funny you say that, Alan. Obviously, there's no chasing and scourging. We talked about their system of judgment is like weird and archaic and about enduring blows. Like a dwarven trial by combat isn't like a fight. It's the dwarven judge, which we can get into, is like an undead revenant, like law keeper, basically has a hammer. Get it because they're a judge, and you get a shield, and the judge just hits you with it 7 times. And if you can endure the hits and just hold the shield up and take them, and these very like ceremonial, almost executioner style hits, if you can take 7 hits with the shield and either the shield doesn't break or you don't buckle or cry out or call for mercy, then you're deemed to be innocent, right? Like you were able to withstand the guilt or whatever. So yeah, I mean that's totally a value for them. So I think rugby is good. I think like a Stratego. I think putting Stratego in there makes sense. That again, you set it up and then you never interact again, I think is cool. Other sports, they're all about caves, they're all about rocks. We don't need tons of them. I did want to have like in the campaign, I wanted to have like a tourney scene relatively early because that's a very like George R. R. Martin thing. Jenga's great, yeah, like a Jenga-esque thing. Jenga with caves. Oh yeah, like a danger room is cool. Yeah, like they love danger rooms or escape rooms. Escape rooms / danger rooms. I don't know if it would be like lethal, right? It wouldn't be like, oh no, avoid the giant robo arms like in X-Men. But I think escape rooms make sense. Where it's like, cool, step into this thing. We've built it, and you have to try to like solve the puzzle to get out. I think Jenga's great. I think like physical sports that they can do. Physical sports. What about I like rugby. Hockey has a lot of checking, a lot of physicality. Yeah, it's huge. They love it. Football, yeah. Football feels like rugby to me. They're pretty similar. It's tough. Like, I'm not trying to be. I think these are all good ideas. Hockey theme seems right, especially if it's like I don't want it to just be hockey. Like they just play hockey, right? But it's something like an ice sport seems cool, like a cold weather sport. Yeah. Okay, it could be a little lethal. I think there's some of the escape rooms that are more dangerous, right? Cave hockey. Yeah. Sports and games. Uh-oh. Jose's got it. What do you got, buddy? He's so excited that he did one exclamation point. Oh, hey, Takaya. Welcome, Takaya. Oh, tunneling sport is cool. Like a tunnel race? Yeah, imagine like a bobsled team, but what they're doing is they're digging a tunnel. That's great, dude. Bobsled team. So it's like a team of like 5 dwarves. They've got the axes and they're like going as fast as they can, right? It's like that's nice. I like that. Irish football. Like a John Henry off. Yeah, exactly. That's cool. I think it would be that feels like a very grand game, I think so. Amelia, when did we meet? Are you? Maybe you're the Amelia that I'm thinking of. What's going on, Takaya? Thanks for coming out. Tunnel bobsledding is sick as hell. I love that. God, what else? I think that's a lot. Yeah, I thought so. I thought you were Hallie's friend. This is Takaya. She came to my wedding. Yeah, how you doing, Amelia? Thanks for coming out. We're talking about dwarves and dwarven sports right now. Sports and games. I think that's pretty good. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let me look at that. I'll put Irish football in there. Football. I'll have to look it up because I don't really know too much what it's called. I think it might be rugby. Bobsledding meets curling. Oh, curling is kind of cool. It's so weird. I like them having like a weird one. I'll put curling on there. It might be a little too much, like just too many, but I think that's neat. Goat grease. Ooh, yuck. Okay, that's great. What else do you want to talk about? I feel like that's pretty good for sports and games. We can get more specific if you want. Or again, if you have more ideas, please throw them out. I'm happy to talk about that. So we have religion, we have customs and traditions, language, family structure, food and drink, sports and games, fashion, animals, music. What do y'all think? Goat grease, thumbs up. Double thumbs for goat grease. I'm here for it. All right, goat grease down. Okay, you gross people. Goat grease. You like that shit? There you go. You want to talk music? Let's talk about music. So the only thing I have down, there's 2 things actually. Stone singing. They definitely like drums. Skrillex. I thought you said, did they beat drums? And I looked at it and said, do they beat drops? Do they like beat drops? I feel like they like Skrillex, I think that's cool. I think they could get into, oh my god, my dubstep. Like my brain just like forgot the word dubstep for a second. Hurling. I've never heard of hurling before. Thanks for looking it up for me. Hurling. Cave rave, like the third Matrix. Lithophone? Is that stone singing? So the idea, okay, so two things. Talk about the epic poem first. So dwarves are not great poets. They're not bad poets, but they're not known for their like wide breadth of poetry. My thought here was that they basically have one huge epic poem that they just endlessly add to it, and so it's this massive, encyclopedic, like recounting of their history and their mythology and stuff. And it's all told. It has one like melody, and you just like sing it over and over and over again, and it's meant to be sung to the hammer on the forge, right? It's basically like an invocation to Umbor, the god of smithing. So they just like sing this thing out, and it's like sung. You can also do it with like tankards on tables. Like it has this kind of like rhythmic, non-instrumental accompaniment, and it, different people will add to it or embellish certain areas. You can write in verses that will fit in. Everyone knows the tune. It's sort of like the national anthem of Coombe, right? This is the song of the dwarves. But that doesn't mean they don't have other forms of music. Let me see what Takaya says. The music instruments of rock or pieces of rock. Oh, that's cool. A lithophone. Lithophone. I did not know about that. Thank you, Takaya. Musical instrument made from rocks, striking rocks together. So the other kind of music that I have for them currently is called, it's temporarily called stone singing, which is a little bit simplistic. And it is sort of a semi-divine form of magic where the certain clerics, particularly of Ignon, the goddess of earth and stone, can sing certain resonant frequencies that will, either that will do sort of have magical effects on stone. So they may be able to sing to cause certain veins of precious metal to vibrate in a way. So it's like a way to like depth find and find, the veins of silver. Like, this wall is rumbling in this way because I'm singing at this resonant frequency, and so then I can hear that there's silver back here, and we'll carve the wall out and look with a vein of silver. They also there are certain kinds of like alloys. I think it's called ferrofluid is one of the ones we came up with. Where they can sing and it will cause it to shape itself in certain ways. So if you sing a certain note with particularly prepared ferrofluid, it might change shape from being a shield to a spear or something like that. One of the clans in particular, the Iron Spring, or clan Iron Spring, is known for their use of ferrofluid and their ability to kind of like shape it as this like flowing quicksilver kind of thing. And that's all done musically, so it's, I imagine it's a lot of like ohms and low tones and like subsonic noises. Musical instruments made of rocks. Overtone singing? Oh, you're talking about like throat singing? Throat singing is cool. Fun fact, for the movie that we made for Afterwalker, my friend Stephen Maloney, who y'all know, he was in XP Season 2 as Jordan. He plays a character in the movie, and he plays like a sort of a Norse priest, like a pagan priest called a Gothi. And he taught himself how to throat sing for the part, and he sounds really fucking cool, and I want to learn how to throat sing, and I can't do it. Every time I try, it doesn't work, and I'm jealous because I like to do weird things with my voice. But yeah, it's really neat. Avi Kaplan overtone singing. Oh, okay, maybe I'm thinking of something else. Yeah, I'll make a note. Throat singing / overtone singing. Yeah, yes. That's Tuvan throat singing isn't the term for it, but yeah, that's cool. Where you can kind of like make your voice separate. That's very neat. I like that. Overtone singing. Could be throat singing. That's neat. What kinds of musical instruments do they like? Obviously, these lithophones is definitely a thing. Cave raves, a la the Matrix 3. I don't think I've seen any Matrix apart from the first one. I heard that the other two were not great films, películas, so I have not seen them. Instruments include... No, why do I have that? I don't know. Instruments include... Obviously, they like drums. They like lithophones. I think they like horns. They are not great, period. I think they like voice a lot, I think they're like almost predominantly singers. Like their horns give them a good brass band. Yeah, they definitely like horns. Drums, horns. I feel like, yeah, they don't have a lot of like songs. I feel like it's a lot of, I read this interesting thing that talked about like musical traditions between sort of like the East and Western styles of singing, and that like in Europe, in like the Middle Ages, the kind of singing that sort of emerged was sort of unified singing, like choral singing or Gregorian chant, where it's like many voices all contributing to the one, right? Whereas the kind of singing that emerged in sort of the East, if you want to call it that, mostly in the Middle East, is very individualistic. Like if you listen to, like a muezzin or something like that, or like the call to prayer, it's like it's all about soloists and like one voice sort of singing on its own, as opposed to having like, and obviously there are exceptions in both cases, but like sort of European music tended towards being unification, and sort of Middle Eastern music tended towards singularity, which I thought was really interesting. So I'm trying to figure out, dwarves feel like they would be about unification, but to me there's something kind of that plays against type that I like, that they're sort of all about like your soul and your inner resonance and kind of singing to yourself, and they're not really, I don't know, like I like that idea that like they're very about like wordless, almost like keening or like emotive singing, that if they're these like cold iron people, that they have this like resonance to them, Jewish style dwarves, klezmer music. I don't know klezmer music. I should check that out. Yeah, the thing with I like I've always liked the comparison between dwarven culture and sort of Judaism, but I'm always worried about that because like it feels like it's easy to like slide into anti-Semitism. That there's a lot there, and we talked about this I think in previous streams about like all these like harmful stereotypes about gold, and like I don't like it when people portray dwarves with big noses. Like I always feel like that's kind of gross. Like goblins sort of similarly too. I'm like, oh, they don't. I feel like that's like a gross stereotype that we're still perpetuating. I mean, it certainly doesn't have to be, but it always rubbed me the wrong way. But yeah, I mean, even if you think about the way that like they do a lot of, if you think like Tolkien's dwarvish language, a lot of it he was very explicit about. Yeah, his dwarves are inspired by Judaism and like the Hebrew language in particular. 1 second. Hey, what's up? Yeah, go for it. So like that always kind of rubs me the wrong way. But there's cool things there too, right? That like their language has a lot of these interesting like fricatives and stuff that we don't have in English. And I've always just kind of been drawn to that. So it's like finding a way to like honor those roots without just like backsliding into stereotype. It is a gross stereotype. I totally agree, right? There's a lot of nasty stuff there. So it's like, how do you find the cool parts and resonate with that stuff without, sort of falling prey to the traps and the pitfalls that are all over the place? It's tough, it's tough. Yeah, I do too. And like, it's interesting because there's so many parallels too. Like if you think about like the wandering and the like long exile and these great people that were sort of forced to live in like the nations of other people that weren't their own. Like there's a lot of like ties there, but you just got to be careful. Oh, sure. Yeah, I didn't know that, Brooke. I'm glad that resonates with you. That's what's important, is that you feel like it's honoring and it's not detracting and it's not stereotype. So, good for you. That's cool. I did not know that. We were talking about music though, so I feel like that's pretty good. I don't really know. I feel like they're not really about string instruments. I don't think they're really about guitars and harps and things. Although Tolkien does talk about harps a lot as being like a sign of wealth. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's pretty good. Drums and lithophones and horns and voice feel like plenty to me. They got their one epic poem. I want to talk a little bit about that like soul stuff, like. Maybe put it under voice. Dwarves are more individualistic singers and musicians than they are sort of choral. they can certainly harmonize, but they don't make a whole lot of wood. What was a transverse flute? Again, his harp. That's true. They can certainly harmonize, but they view singing as a wordless, emotive expression. A dwarf might sing or hum or whom. Oh, yeah, no worries. So there, Alan, thanks for coming and hanging out. Thanks, bud. Yeah, we did have a good stream so far. I probably got maybe 15 minutes, half an hour left in me before I got to call it as well. But it was good. Thanks for coming out, everyone. Look at all these people while they work. But they do so unconsciously, without melody or tune. You know, it's just sort of like resonant. Oh, yeah? You can check it out, Brooke? You know, I might, yeah, that makes me think maybe we should call it. We've done a lot. We've done music and holidays and sports and games. A flute that's held oh, sure, like one of these guys. Cool, thanks to Kaya. Yeah, maybe. I could see them. I'm not sure what they make it out of. Bone, maybe? Yeah, that's cool. I like that. Let's do one more category, and then call it good. Food and drink. I think so. Yeah, I think they do. I think that like lyrics are. I think they think of them as hokey. You know, they have like their one poem that they sing, but I think like the idea of like a love song, you know, with like and like describing someone's like physical attributes and their beauty, like yeah, they definitely see that as being like really tacky and surface level and dumb. You know, I agree. I think that's cool, Jose. Lyrics are for lamos. Does just lamo spell like that? I don't know how you spell lamo. Lyrics are for dum-dums. I'll do that. Pedestrian. Yeah, lyrics are so pedestrian. The man on the street, the human on the street does. So pedestrian. Okay, so let's do one more category. Just food and drink, family structure, language, religion, fashion is kind of interesting. Animals, architecture and art. Yeah, I had a lot of holidays, guys. I can't decide between fashion and food. What do y'all think is cooler? I kind of want to do fashion. How do you feel? Those of you who remain in the chat. Yeah, I'm leaning towards fashion. But there's a lot to talk about food. I had a contentious, one of our patrons, Vaughn, and I had a little joke about how I liked the idea that there are dwarves that eat very rarely, and as a delicacy, there are like certain rocks that dwarves can eat, you know? Which obviously is silly and extreme, but that's kind of why I like it. I like the idea of like presenting it as like, you know, it totally freaks out, you know, humans and other things like that. And it's like very rare. It's like very like magically treated special kinds of rocks. And he was like, that's ridiculous. And he was very anti-rock eating, which I thought was funny. But I still think it's cool. I might keep it. But I'm feeling fashion. So for fashion, can be colors from jewels and minerals and silk. Yeah. So the idea with silk, right, is that they have silkworms. That silkworms are like almost a dwarven product. Silkworms are a dwarven industry. And most clothing is made from silk. Most dwarven clothing is made from silk. Wool is common among them as well, I feel like, if they have goats, but it's considered lower class. Wool is common as well, but is considered lower class than silk, which is, you know, analogous to how we think of it. They do have woolly goats. Oh yeah, a lot of goats and a lot of sheep, for sure. Mostly on the surface, but I feel like they probably even have, you know, some goats and things that live underground with them. I think of Tolkien dwarves seem to have lots of fluffy fur and lots of layers, but I feel like they wouldn't really have super cozy clothing because it doesn't get freezing. Yeah, that's true. It could be cold underground, but yeah, I like the idea that like when they're in their cities, and their holds, that it's this kind of loose fabric. I feel like a lot of dwarves go around shirtless. Like maybe there's like a cultural thing with clothing where they don't always feel like they have to wear it. I mean, I don't think they're like naked all the time, but I think shirtlessness is a thing among dwarves, and I don't think that there's a lot of is common among dwarves, especially in the home. Like, clothes are for other people. They'll frequently wear like pants and things, simple trousers. But when they're working, they sweat, But when working, they sweat. And clothing simply mucks that up. Yeah, Takai, I think that's a good point. When you see dwarves in Tolkien, as you described, they're always wearing furs. But I think it's implied that the dwarves in Tolkien, at least in The Hobbit, they don't have homes. They're like vagabonds. They wander the countryside. They've been kicked out of their ancestral homeland, so they're kind of meant to look like, these sort of ragamuffin characters. But yeah, I think when they're in their halls and their homes, they're much more comfortable. Colors and patterns. So I think dwarves are not traditionally very concerned about color. Like, they're concerned about beauty and design, but I think because they have dark vision in D&D, and dark vision traditionally doesn't let you see colors, that they don't value it. I don't think it's absent from their culture, especially because they've been out of underground for long enough. But again, I think that's one of those dichotomies. I actually did a really interesting thing with language like this, actually. Let me see if I can pull this up, because I thought it was neat. Dwarven clothes, like I'll go to a Nordic sweater fashion. I could see that, especially if they're leaving, right? That like they would sort of have inner clothes and outer clothes, right? Like if they're venturing out into the cold mountain terrain, yeah, that it's this very like, I feel like it's a lot of knitting, Look up Dwarven language. So I did a cool thing with their colors. That they would see everything in black and white for the most part. And so their language in spoken Dwarven reflects that. Let me see if I can find it. I have it's bad. I have like a very preliminary glossary, and that's not a good sign. Oh yeah, so Nod, N-O-D, and Nov, N-O-V, are white and black respectively. And then they have a separate word for color. And then Zek is color. And the way the Garzel, the Dwarven language, works is that it's whatever the germinative or whatever the word for that is, where you take different phonemes and you stick them together. So like if you want to say, for example, ocean, they don't have a word for ocean in Dwarven. So it's ever, as in like all time, lake. Ezkan, ever lake. So the way they do colors is, they have Nov and Nod for black and white. But if you want to talk about red, the word is Rubzik in Dwarven, and Rub is ruby. So it's ruby color, right? Rubzik and Remzek, and where is the, I forget what blue is. Irzek. So it's like ruby color, emerald color, sapphire color, right? That they don't really value color. It's a secondary concept to them. Again, it exists and they acknowledge it, but it's not primary. So colors and dyes are of less importance in their culture than simply cut and design. You might have some color to grant it some texture, but you're not going to value that, you know what I mean? Colorblind, inverted palette, yeah. Blood. There's a really interesting thing in Old Norse, too, about blue and black, that, like, there's some debate about them being the same thing. Check out Jackson Crawford, has a lot of interesting thoughts on that. Colors and dyes are less important in their culture than simply cut and design. What kinds of garments are we talking about here? Obviously they're very concerned with their beards and stuff like that, and jewelry. Jewelry's huge. Jewelry is huge. Jewelry is huge in Dwarven culture. All about necklaces and, circlets and shit. You can also think of what colors and dyes are available to them. Blue dye wasn't, for a long time, available, so people didn't really have a word for it. Yeah, that's right. It's like wine dark. That's how they used to describe the sea, right? Well, it fits. To have some color, you have to destroy jewels and minerals, so why not do that? Yeah. Oh, so why do that? Yeah, exactly, right. Yeah, I like that they're very low emphasis on color. I'm trying to think, like, garment-wise, women wear dresses, presumably. Men wear pants, and obviously flip it around, whatever you need. Sailor sweaters, yeah, they like to knit. Inner clothes and outer clothes. When underground, tend to wear loose garments of silk. When above ground, thick knitted sweaters and fur-lined coats. Uh-oh. What do you got, Jose? Yes, Jose. Beard armor is a thing. Someone straight out of Warcraft, or Warhammer, I think. But they would definitely, have, like, casings for beards when they go into battle. Geometric designs are huge, of course. Geometric designs are big in all their fashion. What do you got, Jose? You're bogarting me over there. Make the undergarments with precious metal filigrees. They wear gold near the skin, not to show. Yeah, that's cool. I dig that. Undergarment with precious metal filigree. I mean, I think precious metal filigree is everywhere, honestly. Precious metal filigree. Everywhere. Yeah, it's like closer to them, right? It's like, and again, there is that's great, Jose, because like there's a definite emphasis in their culture on secrecy and hiding and keeping things that you value close to you and not letting others see them. Like, yes, there's definitely a sense of like ostentation, but the things they value the most, they tell no one about, right? Like that's one of Umbor's great legends is about, like this treasure he built, this treasure he made and he kept and he hid and he told no one about it, and that made it all the more valuable because no one even knew it existed. So yeah, that's cool that they would like they would wear things underneath. It would be a lot about covering as well and saying like you can't see this thing, especially when they go out, right? It's about hiding your wealth. Dwarf skin out of gold, interesting. Yeah, I like that. Leads to inaccurate myth about dwarves having gold skin. Gold skin. I feel like that's like a goblin story. I think any human would know that's not true, but goblins are like, they have golden skin. Beard armor. I like the mask thing in armor. This is more a defense thing, but like masks in armor. That if they're all about the defense, right? Like they're trying to be as protected as possible. A lot of times in like big Hollywood blockbusters, when you have like big medieval armies and sort of fantasy movies, they have a tendency to give them masks or helms that close because they don't want to show all those faces. They want to be able to say like, oh, they're just all soldiers, and you don't have to like look at the face of the person you're killing, like, stormtrooper style. But I honestly think they would have masks that come down over their faces. Some of them would, maybe not all dwarves, but that would be like a common thing in like household guard or whatever, just because it's like extra defense. You have like the eye holes you can see through, but if the helmet comes down and it's got the dwarf face on it, right, then you kind of, that whole thing is protected. You could just have like a helm that covers the whole head, but I kind of like the idea of that dwarven face etched into it. Masks and armor, increased defense. And then it plays into this idea that like individual dwarves in an army are not important. It's like it's more the shield wall and standing together. That's how you defend, not like heroes who leap forward and like have identity in battle. One dwarf is very much the same as the next dwarf. particularly because a lot of their armies are formed up of, you know, conscripts, not conscripts, but like volunteers, like children. But like everyone in the Dwarven clan like turns out to defend. And so if you could tell, like, okay, that person is scared or that person is, you know, less experienced or whatever, it doesn't show any opening in the army. Of course, this is the way. Yeah. I was thinking about dwarves a little bit when I was watching The Mandalorian and like the cool badass armor smith. Yeah, you know, I was thinking about dwarves just a little. Yeah, I feel pretty good about that. It's a little generic for fashion, but I feel like that's good. I might call it there, everybody. I'm getting a little headachy, and I think I might be done for the night. But this has all been great. I'm going to try to come back next week and do some more streaming. I'm not sure what we'll cover. I'll probably put up another poll like I did this week. But yeah, if you guys have any more thoughts or ideas, you can always find us on Twitter at XBWebSeries. This has been great. I want to talk about food and drink sometime soon. I just generally want to talk about customs and traditions as well. Thanks to Kaya, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming by. It was so nice to see you. She was totally a dwarf, dude. Talk about food and drink, but otherwise, yeah, animals would be good. Architecture would be good. Yeah, this has been really awesome. I was really worried when I came back. I know, I'm sorry, dude. It was great to see you again. I was worried when I came back that nobody would come hang out, you know? And I was totally wrong. Look at all the people who came and chilled and all the stuff we got done. It was great. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, I'll be back next Sunday. If y'all are around, we could do the same thing again for an hour or two. It'd be great. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see y'all later. Thanks, buddy. Ooh. See you later, guys.